Hi, this is Hussain from Informatica GCS, and in this video I am going to demonstrate how to execute post, read and delete API from Java code. I'm going to be performing this demonstration on MDM 10.3 hotfix 2 on JBoss 7.1. The agenda for today is to execute these APIs via Java code, which is based on standard service data object classes, and the Java code which is based on classes which are generated by the MDM hub based on the BES configuration. The prerequisites to run the BES call using the Dynamic SDO is as follows. First, we need to create a Java project in Eclipse. So right click on the project explorer, go for new and Java project. Once you're done with that, it's going to look something like this. We need to import certain jar files into this project. We do so by clicking on the project, right click and build path, configure build path. Once we're here, we click on the external jars button. We're going to be needing certain jar files from the resource kit, samples, COS and lib. Picking up all the jar files from here except for the JBoss client and JBoss CLI client, since we're going to be taking up that directly from the JBoss 7.1 bin folder. Once we're done with this, we go to the JBoss 7.1 bin folder and client and pick up these two jar files from here. One additional jar file that we need is present in the hub server lib folder, which is the Siberian server.jar file. Once we are done with this, it is going to look something like this. Once that is done, you can just apply and close. Next, we need to change the properties that are present in the my.properties file. This property file is present in the resource kit /samples/COS folder, and it looks something like this. Here we provide the ORS ID, username and password, and these properties. The point to note that this property is specific to JBoss 7. After that, we create a class named Dynamic SDO sample in Eclipse, which is right here. Coming to the Dynamic SDO sample code, first we need to set up certain configurations, starting with the properties object. So here is the properties object, and into this properties object I'm going to add certain properties which are as follows. Once done with that, I'm going to create a composite service client object using the config object, which is the properties, and using that I'm going to create the helper context object as well. So using the config, I'm going to be creating the composite service client, and using this client I'm going to be creating the helper context. Also, I'm going to be creating the call context object, which will have the ORS ID, username and password. After all that, I'm going to be using the helper context object to create the data factory and the following request types. So using the helper context, I create the data factory and I create CO filter node, CO filter type, CO filter node type, key type, read person and write person type. Once we're done with the generic configurations, we move on to creating a new person, that is the post call. To do that, I'm going to be creating the person, create person, person root, create person parameter data objects, which are right here. Create person, person parameters. I'm going to be setting the system name to admin, which is right here, inside the person parameters. I'm going to create the person data object as well as the person root data object. Inside the person root, I'm going to be setting the first name to be John and the last name to be Smith, and which is the exact person record that we are going to be creating. And we do that by calling the process method of client using the call context and the create person. Once we do that, the above call will create the person. Coming to the read call. For the read call, we need to create the read person parameters, CO filter node, and key of data objects, which are right here. So read person parameters, CO filter node. I'm going to be setting the name inside the CO filter node to be person, and the key to be row ID object of the person that we just created, which is right here. From the create person response, I pick up the person row ID and I provide it here in the key. And using the same read person, I'm going to be calling the process which is going to read the person that we just created. So once I'm done with the read, I'm going to be calling the delete person call. To do that, I'll require the delete person and the delete person parameter objects, which is right here, delete person and delete person parameters, where it's the same thing. I'm going to be providing the system name to be admin. I'm going to be deleting the person by calling the process method of the client object and pass the call context and the delete person object instead of passing the read like we did earlier, which is right here. This call is going to be deleting the person. So to make sure that the person is deleted, we are going to try to read the person after delete. So since we know that that is going to end up with an error, we are going to put a try catch block around it, and we're going to read the result. So to run this Java code, I'm going to right click, go to run as, and run configurations. Since we need to give command line arguments, I'm going to come to arguments and provide the ORS ID, username and password, and click on run. So in the console, we'll have a look at the output of the program. So like we saw, first we are going to create a new person with the name John Smith. The row ID object of the person that was created is 72958. Using the same row ID object, we are going to be performing a read, which will have the return, obviously with the name John Smith. We're going to be trying to delete this person with the same row ID object, and once it is deleted, I'm going to be trying to read it, which is this read person call, which is going to end up with this error, making sure that the person is deleted. So this is how we run the dynamic SDO sample.jar file. Now coming to the prerequisites for running the BES call using the generated SDO. For this, we are going to be generating and compiling the SDO classes for the ORS using the ant build.xml in the resource kit. To do that, I'm going to be coming to the COS path again, and I'm going to be opening the command prompt here. Once I do that, I'm to compile the generate and compile the classes. This is the command I use. And once I hit enter, it's going to generate all the Java files and compile those Java files and make it into class files, which will be present under classes and under generated. Once that is done, I have to import these generated classes into the project, which I do so from here. Build path, configure build path. This time come to sources. I link the source, go to the browse, n5mdm, hub resource kit, samples, COS, build, and generate it. I just select that, and once that is done, it should be imported something like this. The rest of the prerequisites, like adding the jar files and everything, is the same as how we did for dynamic SDO. Coming to the code itself, the additional lines are going to be these two. We are going to be importing the Informatica CO_ORS and CS_ORS to get the class file which is specific to the BES configuration that we have at hand. Here also we are going to be having the similar configuration where we'll have the same properties file, the properties object, the call context object, the helper context, and the data factory. But the difference being where I had to use the data object type objects, I can directly use write person, read person, etc. like so. And I'm going to be going with the same flow. So first I will create the new person. Once it's created, I'll read it. Once the result is read, I'm going to delete that person. Once the person is deleted, I'm going to try to read the person after it's deleted, and I should get the similar error like I got earlier. SDO code. Coming to the execution part of it, we had run the dynamic SDO in the IDE itself, in Eclipse itself. But for a twist, we're going to be changing this up and running the generated SDO sample on the command line. To do that, the code that we just wrote, I'm going to be placing that inside this particular path. I've already done that, and let me show that to you. So it is going to be in source Java com Informatica MDM sample CS and generated SDO. It is the same code that I've developed here, and I've placed it in this particular path. Once I do that, I open the command prompt in the same path, sample/cos, and I can do either of two things. It is going to be the same thing. I can run the command and space run generated, or I can execute the run-generated.bat file, which is right here. So I can either run this bat file, or I can do this cmd here and run-generated. So what it is going to do here is, first it will generate all the class files required. Once these class files are generated, it's going to be compiling the same. So like we can see, it is in the process called compile-generated, and it is going to be compiling 1952 source files and placing it into the build/classes folder. So once it is compiled, it is going to run the file like so. Right. So now we see that the build is successful and it has run. Let us have a look at the output. So first we have the create new person, which is the write. Once it's created, this is the output of it. So the person is created, and we are looking at the write person return, and we see that the row ID object that is created is 721959. Using the same row ID object, I'm going to be reading the person, and this is the read person return. After the person is read, I'm going to be deleting the person, which is again 721959. And once the person is deleted, I'm going to be trying to read it, which is going to give me the same result as we saw earlier, that the user does not have the required rights. And that is how we can run the Java code from the command line as well. So this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching. You can provide your feedback on the following links.